Okay, it's Wednesday, and this is day number 175, and I'm coming to you again from the lodge, and I'm going to practice today with eCamm, which is a streaming and I guess a taping platform, a recording platform for streaming and YouTube and platforms like YouTube to record your videos on. And I've been using OBS, but OBS was crashing my system so much that I just had to give it up. It's an open source platform and it's great, but my laptop is just not quite up to snuff. It's not enough, I don't have enough CPU power to do everything that OBS requires. When I add all of the various elements, the microphone and media sources and cameras and all that stuff, it just would either lag behind because of the power usage, or it would crash the program altogether. So what I'm doing now is using eCamm, which is made for Mac. It's been around for years, and you can download it, and there's a 14-day trial, which I'm using right now, to see how I like it. I think I'm going to like it, but I'm going to have to pay for it. That's the only downside, is you have to pay for it. But it's going to, I think, be much better for my system. It doesn't eat up as much CPU usage. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because some of it is web-based. I'm not a tech expert when it comes to software, so I don't know. But I know that my laptop doesn't have to work as hard when I'm using eCamm. And I'm still trying to practice and figure out how to use eCamm. So I'm using today's update as a guinea pig, as an experiment. And so I'm going to switch scenes now to the browser. And I thought what we would do is I'm going to look up Inverter, if I can spell it. I'm going to look up power inverters for vans and do some homework here. Power inverter. See how do inverters work? Why do you need one? How to install a power inverter in your car. Best beginner off-grid inverter. 7 cheapest and best 2,000 watt inverters comparison for 2026. You can see there's a lot of information available for us. And what I want is just the basics. In fact, I've already got some notes. I think I'm going to pull up my notes and see if this works. I'm going to go in, and I've got a power inverter guide. And I'm going to pull that up and see if that comes up on my screen. So let me pull up eCamm and see if it's showing up here. I don't know what that is. Okay, there. Looks like it's showing up on my screen. Right there. Can everybody see it? And this is sort of a guide that I put together, basically just to help give me some of the basics of the information. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and see if that's helpful. Is that better? And I'm recording all of this, so if I start messing up, bear with me. Like I say, I'm still playing around with it to try to see how this is going to work. I'm not sure how to get rid of the screen underneath. It's showing the entire screen. There's probably a way for me to pull up just my notes here without showing my screen in the background, but I'll figure that out later. Right now I just want to go over the basics of what a power inverter is. And as you can see, it looks like a power inverter serves as a bridge between DC power and AC power. Basically, the inverter converts our DC battery power into our basic electrical outlets like we have in our homes. What is it, 120 volts? The plug-ins, whenever you plug in something in your house, that's what this will do. It will convert the DC battery power into plug-ins so that you can, in your van or your RV, you can plug in stuff with a your basic plug-ins, 3-prong 120 volt plug-ins. Technical fundamentals. What is a power inverter? It's a device designed to convert direct current from our batteries, typically a vehicle battery, into AC power. It allows standard household appliances to be used in a mobile or off-grid environment. And they give some examples here: charging laptops, mobile devices, kitchen appliances, medical appliances, and it talks about how professional services like police departments and ambulance crews use these converters as well. Now, I've never heard about this sine wave deal. There is this sine wave analysis, and it has to do with the quality of the AC output is determined by the sine wave type. The incorrect type can lead to device malfunction or damage. So you want to, I think what I heard is that you probably modified is okay for most of us, but if you have anything like medical equipment or anything that really needs the correct quality of the AC, you go with pure. So I guess whenever you're buying an inverter, you want to check out the sine wave, see if it's pure or modified. And I have no idea what that means. Load capacity and planning. Determining the correct inverter size, ranging from 400 watts to 10,000 watts, is dependent on the intended electrical load. To find the wattage of a device, check the manufacturer's label. So every device is going to have a label on it. That'll tell us the wattage. If the wattage is not listed, use this formula. Volts times amps equals watts. Example: a lamp rated at 120 volts and 0.5 amps equals a 60 watt load. Now they suggest here a 20% buffer rule. When powering multiple devices, the total wattage of all devices must be summed up. However, the inverter should never be operated at 100% of its capacity. You want to add 20%. So what you want to do is you want to do an inventory. Just for practice here, I'm going to switch back to full screen. How do I do that? There we go. What you want to do is take an inventory. If you're purchasing a van and you want to put an inverter in it, you want to add up all of the appliances. Just get you a list, like a spreadsheet, or just get you a notepad and write down every appliance in your van that you're going to be using. And then write down, based on its label, come up with the watts that are required. And then add all of those up. And let's say you come up with a total of 700 watts. You need 700 watts to power all your appliances. Well, they're suggesting you don't get an inverter that will cover just the 700 watts. You want to at least add 20% to that, which would be another 140. So a 1,000 watt converter. I say converter. What's the difference between convert and invert, by the way? Does anybody know? Convert versus invert. That's a good question. So, a 1,000-watt inverter is good for up to 800 watts. I think that's what we're dealing with here. All right, let me see if I can switch back to this. All right. So, performance standards. Let's see, battery integration and runtime. Determining amp hours. To estimate how long a battery will last, users must calculate the watt hours and then amp hours. The watt hours multiply the device wattage by the number of hours of intended use. This comes up with amp hours. So if we go back to our previous example and we've got a total of 700 watts and we want to, you know, how long do we want to run each of those appliances? Well, if your hair dryer is part of that list, you're not going to run it very long. What, 10 minutes? Coffee pot, you may run half an hour during the day, maybe an hour. And so what you want to do for each of those items that you've determined the watts for, you also want to determine how long you're going to run those during a 24-hour period and then come up with a total number of hours. And that'll give you your amp hours. You multiply the watt hours by the number of hours intended. Divide the total watt hours by the battery voltage, typically 12 volts. So, to run a 60-watt lamp for 10 hours, the system requires 600 watt hours on a 12-volt battery, which necessitates a 50 amp hours. So, that's how you can go through and do the math and figure up all your appliances, how much wattage they need, how long you're going to run them, divide it out, do the math, come up with the amp hours, and that will tell you how many amp hours of battery usage you'll need. And it'll also tell you how often you're going to be having to recharge your battery. If you're using up all of your amp hours in a day, then every day you're going to have to be sure you recharge it to make sure the battery's recharged. Connection safety and maintenance. You want to be sure you use the right size of cables. If a cable gauge is too small for the current, then you're going to get some overheating. Cables may melt, and there are charts available online to make sure you know what size of gauge of cable to use to be safe. So best practice, use multiple cables to share the load. And let's see, multiple cables to share the load, and consult gauge charts for specific applications. And those gauge charts are readily available online, so you can find those easy. Safety components, there are fuses available that will help protect the system from a short circuit or a power surge. These fuses, you probably need to carry a supply of them. I need to be sure I've got a supply of fuses because they will blow, they will burn out. And in some cases, depending on who installed your system, they may have put the wrong fuse in the system. The fuse that they install may not be powerful enough to handle the load in case of a surge. I've seen that happen too. So you want to be sure and check these fuses out. And whenever you have a power outage, that should be the first thing that pops in your mind is, did the fuse blow? Wire management, cables should be kept tidy and clear of engine components. So if you're running wires underneath the vehicle itself and it's exposed to the outer air, you want to be sure it's protected and it's not resting on any exhaust pipes or anything that's going to damage the wiring. So for extended battery life and endless charging, get you a DC to DC charger. These utilize the vehicle's alternator to recharge auxiliary batteries while driving. Now I know the Ford Transit, if I had my way, the Ford Transit that I buy is going to have a double alternator. I'm going to have an alternator designated just for making sure that it charges the batteries. And you can get two alternators from the factory on a Transit. And I think a lot of these van builders recommend that you go ahead and get that double alternator. And then you can get solar panels. Of course, solar can also provide some charging supplement to the battery bank to help recharge the batteries. So these DC to DC chargers are helpful. And there's I believe it's called a pass-through battery. You can get a pass-through inverter, which means not only does it convert DC to AC power, but it also does the reverse. It also converts AC back to DC so that you can recharge your batteries through the inverter. So you've got it going both ways. You can also so you can get I think it's called a pass-through inverter. All right, let's see. So how are we doing here? Is this thing working? I'm playing around with eCamm and seeing if this thing is going to work. Okay, I'm back on my screen. Where's my browser? Let's pull up my browser. Let's go back up to the browser and see where we're at here. Okay, there's my browser. And I'm going to look up pass through, make sure I got that pass through inverter. Did I get that right? Pass through and inverter install. Let's see here. Buck converter, boost converters. Intro to DC. Let's see what this guy has to say. Another intro. We don't need these intros, people. Just get into the video. Come on.
One of the main things we might use is Kirchhoff's current law, right? Which basically says if I have a bunch of currents, I1, I2, up to, some IN, coming into a node, the KCL just basically says that the sum.
That's going to give me a headache if I look into that too much. Well, let's see. How does buck converter work? Let's see. You do not need a DC to DC charger.
G'day guys, it's Tom here with MYT Solar. I want to show you this awesome build that we did on this 19 MKS by Outdoors RV, but specifically I want to talk about charging from the truck. Now what's unique about this build, and I'm excited to show you, is that the customer wanted to get lots of charge from his truck, but he did not want to use an Orion DC to DC charger. So there was a few reasons why the customer didn't particularly want to use these in this build. So one thing, this customer has a Ford Tremor, and it has one of Ford's, what they might call a generator in the back of the truck. It has a built-in inverter that's tied to the truck alternator. So the customer wanted to see if we could utilize that. The other side of things is they didn't really want to spend the money on all the labor that's required to run cable through the truck, because in a DC to DC charger situation, that kind of is one of the most time-consuming things, is running cable through the truck. Another thing that was kind of something that I brought up was that because this is a 24-volt system, you can see I'm holding two very different devices right here. So this is the Orion XS50. This is a brand new device from Victron, and it's a great little device. It's the new DC to DC charger for a 12-volt system. So we have 12 volts from the truck and 12 volts on the trailer side. This is a great little device that has kind of replaced the old Orion DC to DC, which is in this hand right here. So you can see it's much bigger. This is a device that we've used in a few builds.
Okay.
Its one downside is that it's bigger. Its other downside
I think we've
is that
seen
it's
enough.
very hot.
I think we've done
without space in the bay, you can see we didn't have a lot of space.
All right, let me back out here. All right, I think we've done enough here. I'm going to pull this back up. I've noticed that it is lagging. The browser does lag, and I guess that's just a issue with my laptop, and probably my Wi-Fi is a little slow too. I think the Wi-Fi here at the lodge, I know the upload speed is real low, and the download speed is probably average or below average, so it's not all that great. So when you combine my old laptop with the weak Wi-Fi, that's where the lag's coming from, I suppose, because the browser's having to come through the Wi-Fi, go into the software, and then come back out of the software on eCamm, and there's just a little lag. One of these days I'll have a good system where everything will flow really nice when I can afford a new laptop, but we'll worry about that. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I was just wanting to play around with this eCamm and see how it works, and that's what I wanted to do with today's update. So thanks for hanging with me. Maybe we learned a little bit about power inverters. Most of you are probably already experts, but I'm still learning. I'm trying to learn all this stuff, so bear with me as we do some talk shop. We talk shop here every once in a while. Go out and have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.